I hope you had a quite Diwali and quite enjoyable, very enjoyable, in fact, with your family. And it's a occasion this time that COVID has really quietened down everything. So, but a quiet Diwali with your family is a pretty good thing. So, I'm taking this session now after 2 weeks. So it's important to recap what we have done so far, just to refresh our memories, and then we move on to the. So till now, I mean, this is the fourth session. So up to session 3, we were talking mostly on the business strategy, and we appreciated that everybody should understand his company's business strategy, business. Otherwise, irrespective of the functions, like whether we are marketing or finance or HR or wherever, but it's important to understand the business, what business we are in, and what is the business strategy. And we also discussed that while thinking strategically about the business, there are 3 questions which are key, which are critical. First of all, what is the vision, mission, and objectives? And that's the destination we want to reach. So every strategy has some objective, some vision, some destination to reach there. So that is important. So, and we talked about vision, mission, objectives, values, and so on and so forth. And the second key question was that how do we, where are we, where do we stand? And in other words, in the context of business organization, what is our external environment, which influences us, which keeps on influencing us day in, day out. Uh, Changes are happening in the external environment, and we must understand what are the changes that's happening. That is, they are impacting us, or they are likely to impact us in future as well. Similarly, we also have to look at, analyze our internal environment. Internal environment talks about the resources, our capabilities, our competencies, and so on. So from external environment, we try to identify what are the opportunities available to us, which we can utilize, which we can exploit, and also what are the threats, what are the risks which are there, so which we have to guard against. Internal environment gives an idea of what our strengths, our strengths, and also where are the weaknesses. And with quite good understanding of external and internal environment, and knowing what is our objective, we start developing our business strategy. And we then, in the last session, we discussed there are 3 kinds of strategies, and we looked at and we are calling it a generic strategy because they are applicable across the board. Every manufacturing or service organization, every organized business organization, uh, these generic strategies are applicable. So we talked about cost leadership. Cost leadership means that we provide something to the customer which is the lowest price. That means we are the lowest price provider of items to the customer. So that's cost leadership. Because as you know, we all the customers are quite price sensitive, and they prefer something of the low price. So this is one of the very important business strategy. So people tend to reduce the cost of manufacturing and all that, so that they can provide those products to the customer at the lowest price. Second strategy, on the other hand, is differentiation. Differentiation means we are not going to provide the lowest cost this thing. However, our products will have certain features which customers will prefer. And if the customers are preferring our products because of certain features, then they are ready to pay us little more than what the cost leader is providing. So that is again a strategy which number of people use it. In fact, a lot of companies are using differentiation. We talked about Apple. Now, both these cost leadership and differentiation strategy, here they are for the broad scope. Broad scope means total market. It is an industry-wide market, which is we're talking about. However, some companies do not sell their products to the entire market in the industry. They are focusing on a narrow segment, a market segment, a group of customers whose requirements are a little different, and they are focusing only on those requirements. So that is called focused strategy. And in focus strategy also we can have both these components of cost leadership and focus differentiation. So this we talked about all the three strategies and discussed and look at number of examples as well. And we also very briefly discussed that in case once we are successful in our business, we tend to grow, and then corporate strategy comes into picture, which means that whether we expand geographically from national company to the international global company and so on. So that is one corporate strategy. Or we also diversify into different products. So we become a multi-business organization, multi-product. So this is what we talked about. However, today we're going to talk about the building HR strategy. That is really a focus, because this diploma is for training and development. Training and development is part of the HR function. And that's why I think it's important to understand both HR strategy, and then in the next session, we're going to talk about the training strategy. So I presume that good number of you may be in HR, or maybe trying to get into HR. So it's important to understand the HR strategy. Okay, what do we mean by HR strategies? Let's understand that. If you look at the business organizational functions, each business has got typically some functions. Like, for example, you have a CEO at the top, and then you have typically you have R&D department, sales and marketing, manufacturing, materials management, engineering. Now, these are the main functions. They're called line functions, or the other functions which are required to really have the product or service. But then in addition to these functions, we also have central support functions. Support functions include HR, finance, secretary, legal, corporate relations, and so on. So these are the support functions. Idea is that all these support functions are going to help the core functions which are on top, and these functions are able to do their job properly. And these support functions, HR, for example, all the functions, core functions need people, and HR probably will be concerned with that. All the functions will need finance, and so on and so forth. So support functions are the ones which are providing the value chain, value adding activities to be supported by whatever support they need, whether it's people, whether it's, yeah.
Yes, sir, sorry to interrupt. Sir, I think you have not yet shared the screen. Actually, we are not able to see your screen.
Is that right? I think
yes, sir, not visible.
No, nobody is able to see that.
So we can only see slides. We can only be able to see few slides, but it's not visible.
But I am also unable to see.
Yeah, I'm not able to see.
Alok, are you there, Alok? I seem to have no problem with the.
So probably you need to keep it on
Slideshow.
presentation view, slideshow view, because it's as of now I can see a few slides, but it's very tiny and very small.
We are not able to see anything when it is
No,
being
no.
mentioned.
I put it on the full. Okay. I'm putting it on full screen. Is it possible? Is it okay? Now I've done it again.
Disconnect it, switch it off, again connect on the slide mode.
Are you not seeing it now?
So it's still not on slideshow view. It's
Not organizational functions, and we gave the full idea of the various functions which are available in the organization, right? So you find that there are certain core functions which are on the first top line. I mean, after CEO, these are the core functions, and then we have some support functions. Now, really speaking, the business strategy becomes the responsible. Formulating the business strategy and implementing the business strategy is the responsibility of the CEO. CEO is the fully in charge of the business, so he is supposed to do the to formulate this business strategy and implement. In formulation business strategy, of course, he takes help of all the participants, all the these things, and number of other people as well. So key business and implementation, again, he takes the help of everybody, but his total responsibility is high. The buck stops there. Okay. Now, looking at the HR function, we have all these functions which are there on the bottom row. They are all various functions which are going to support the core functions. Now, each one has its own strategy. HR has its own HR strategy, finance has own, and similarly all public relations, etc. They have their own strategy. Now, as far as HR is concerned, he is accountable to the CEO. HR head is accountable to CEO, but he also interacts with all the functional heads on the core functions and tries to understand the pain points. What is it that they expect from HR and what is supposed to be done in order to really make all these functions meet their objectives, which in turn will make the business objects. Now, these people, the HR also supports the various other support functions in terms of HR requirements, HR issues and all that. So this is where the HR really happens to be a critical function because as we discussed in a business strategy also, that people are one of the most important resources, assets and all that. So and HR is primarily responsible for various things regarding the people. So HR is really responsible for number of things in the entire organization. So HR is responsible. HR head is really responsible for formulating and implementing HR strategies, which we are going to talk about. Now, tell me, what do you understand by human resource management?
Sir, can you move backward to the last PPT? Actually, I have some questions. Dots. Somendra. Sir, why HR is not considered as the core functions? I'm not able to clarify this.
Okay, core functions are those functions which in the value chain. I think there is something called value chain. Value chain means when we receive the inputs, let's say raw material and so on, and when we do number of operations on those inputs, we keep on adding value to those functions, those inputs, and ultimately that inputs converted to a final product, and final product is then sold to the customer. Now, all the value chain activities which are there, they are called the core functions, value adding functions, and all the other functions which are there, which are the supporting functions. Even sales and marketing in
So
certain
we can generalize as revenue generation. Core functions are actually revenue generation functions.
revenue generation comes from ultimately by selling the products which have been manufactured by your manufacture production shops, and ultimately those production shops have been getting the inputs from this thing, and engineering and R&D provide the design or engineering documents. So ultimately these core functions are the ones which are adding significant value to the input. So they are the, so that's why all other functions are really, it's not that they are not important. I'm not saying that they are not important. They are important, but then they are supporting functions to the value adding, value creating activities. Okay?
Distinction is on the basis of the inputs only.
Yeah, I mean, it's a value creating activities. Normally, they
Okay.
are the.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So we are talking about human resource management. Can somebody mention what is the human resource management?
Effective management of people in an organization or company.
Yeah. So are you also in a, by the way,
Yes, sir.
are you working in the HR function, or you are
Uh, no, I am a trainer.
okay, to HR function at trainer
Yeah.
or also part of
Yeah.
the HR. Okay, if you, I mean, I think I'm sure in this group there could be a number of other people who are belonging to different functions. So it's very simple human resource management. One is, of course, human is something all employees within the organization. Resource is something. Resource means that it's something that is used for creating something. Resource means that it is something which creates something else. And that's why we use resources. And resources normally get depleted with use. As we go on utilizing the resource, it gets uh, diminished in the quantity and so on and so forth. But capital does not. Capital does not get depleted with use. It sometimes it improves in the so. So a lot of people use instead of human resource because people do not get depleted. People become more better and better with experience. So sometimes people use human capital, and sometimes they use human capital management and not human resource management. But maybe that's more appropriate. But anyway, for this course, for this program, we are going to use human resource as the now we're not going to use human capital very much, but human resource is the one. Management, human resource management really means planning and controlling, because management means that you plan a particular thing, control, implement, and then you. So ultimately, human resource management is a planned and controlled activity of an organization to build and maintain relation between employee and the organization. That means if when you are recruiting, it is creating some relationship with the organization of the employee. When you are training and when you're making him more and more developed and making him and making him contribute to the organization, there's a relationship which gets strengthened. When you are paying him compensation and all that, there is some relation. So it is to build and maintain relation between employee and organization in order to meet what? In order to meet business objective, as well as, and this is important, as well as employees' expectation, employees' objectives. So if you really look at the definition, it is a planned and controlled activity of an organization, that is the management part, to build and maintain relationship between employee and the organization in order to meet the business objectives as well as employees' expectations. And I think we are quite aware that there are a number of HRM functions, starting from talent acquisition. I mean, even part of it is manpower planning. Human resource planning is one, where you plan the people, how many are required, and what kind of background, what skill, all that. They're all part of manpower planning, job specification. Ultimately, then you start acquiring. So acquiring and selection, where do you get the people, candidate sourcing, relations, selection, then fit with it. Similar other function is compensation and benefits, rewards. So you work out the reward strategy, compensation benefits, employee engagement and loyalty. You also try to uh, uh, work out the working environment, working conditions, then performance management, training and development, and career development. So there are a large number of functions which HRM consists of. All these functions are there. So any questions on this? I mean, I'm not giving, there could be a number of sub functions of these, but then it may not be very exhaustive list, but then the key functions are these.
Just one thing, sir.
Yeah.
Somendriya.
Yeah.
Normally we define HR functions into two major categories. One is HRM, Human Resource Management. Another we call it HRD, Human Resource Development. So you are considering everything in HRM.
So what is the difference between HR and
HRD?
Well, let's understand what is HRD. You're right, absolutely. HRM and HRD, two different terms which we use very, very often in different contexts. But then what is the difference between HRM and HRD? HRD is a term which we normally use it for development of people who are working in the organization. So HRD is primarily development, and it aims at improving the skills, knowledge, competency, attitude, behavior of the employees in the organization. The main purpose of HRD is to empower and strengthen the abilities of the employees so that their performance is always better than past. So idea is how we can train, develop, change their attitudes, and in order to that they can become more and more effective in their performance, which in turn will help the organization. So HRM, HR, so activities like performance management, training and development, talent management, coaching, mentoring, career development, and so on. So succession planning so all these functions are primarily are covered under HRD. So if you really see, if you when I talked about HR functions, the bottom thing is primarily the HRD. HRD is a subset of HRM. It is not something, it doesn't include but like for example, compensation and benefits and all that, they don't come under HRD, but HRD is the performance management. All these functions are called HRD. Is it somewhat clear? Any questions on this?
No, sir.
Okay. So let's proceed. Now, of course, there is HR. There is HR administration, and there is HR administration. When we talk about administration, it is a daily activity, operational issues, that issuing of appointment letter, and or let's say they're payment of salaries and things like that. They are all, or let's say leave applications and all that. They are all the, initially sometimes back it used to be called personal management. So it is our HR administration. This is daily issues. And then there is the HR strategy. HR strategy is something which is concerned about the future business of the company. Okay, so that is something which is supposed to be that whatever we do in HR strategy, it is going to impact the company for the in its performance in the future. So that this is where we are going to focus now this session on how do we build HR strategy. So definition wise, very simple definition, company's HR strategy is related to all people approaches. It's all about the people. Okay, so it is all the activities related to people, but those activities which address both strategic business challenges and purpose. It doesn't it addresses the basic purpose, challenges and objectives of the company. So it's a strategic business challenges. So it will help the company to attain, to implement its strategy well in order to have the competitive advantage. Okay, so HR strategy, people-related strategy, people-related approaches, which help the company gain competitive advantage or sustain competitive advantage. Okay, so if you really see that blue circle is people-related approaches, it is interacting with the business strategy, business challenges in order to get the competitive advantage, which is there in the middle. So this is the competitive. So that means people-related challenges which help in addressing business challenges in order to get competitive. Why competitive advantage? Because competitive advantage is ultimately gaining competitive advantage is ultimately the objective of any business. If you want to be successful, you have to have a competitive advantage over other competitors. Then only you will be winner. You will be winning over the other ones. So that is the definition. However, what is important is the third circle, which HR strategy should defines how all the approaches which you are doing are aligned to the structural and cultural context, and that is important. That means whatever you do as part of the HR strategy, it should be connected to your cultural context or structural context. That means the HR strategy which works in one organization, it may not work in other organization, because other organization will have different culture, maybe different structure, different ideology, different this thing. So it may not work. So that means the business, this HR strategy will have to be specifically designed for each organization. Even in the same industry, there could be both telecom operators, but each telecom operator will have its separate HR strategy, because their cultural and structural context is different. The culture is different, their ideology is different, their structures may be different, and all this. So it will not work there if you just copy it from one to another. Okay. So now let's discuss any questions so far. What is HR strategy? Okay, now let's try and develop HR strategy, and maybe some of the points will become still more clear. Okay, whenever you develop HR strategy, we start with business. So most important thing is what is the business? What is we should understand business very clearly. Its purpose. What is the purpose of the business? Why does the organization exist? What are we supposed to be doing? What are we supposed to be achieving? That's very important. Okay, as we discussed in our business strategy, the purpose of 3M, for example, is not to manufacture, or let's say 3,000 products. They are in 3,000 products. That's not purpose. They do manufacture the products. However, the purpose is to solve unsolved problems innovatively. So that means it is a innovation-driven organization. And that's important for HR people to know, that it is innovation-driven organization, because all their HR strategies will have to be geared towards enhancing or promoting innovation in the organization. Okay. So people purpose, as we know, that it inspires, motivates people and gives the work. But everything one does in HR must be related to the purpose. If it is not linked to the purpose, it will not be effective. No HR strategy will be effective if it is not serving or it is not meeting the primary goal of the organization, which is the purpose. So that's important. So that means company's business purpose is the one of the starting point. Okay. So whenever supposing you are, sorry, any question? Somebody was asking question, right?
Someone's mic is unmuted, so perhaps.
Okay. So all the purpose, always an eye to the customer. Customers are important, as we discussed in the business strategy sessions also. Customers are important. We should be, even HR people, we should be very clear to understand who are our customers, why do they buy our products if they buy. And since we are not alone in the industry, there are a number of other players who are also in the same market. Are we better than our rivals or not? When people go and buy the product, do they prefer rivals product or they are preferring our product? We may not be better on everything compared to our rivals, but there should be some things we are better than rivals, which make customers purchase our products. So it's something very important. Do the customers buy because of lower price or because of our products which are very appealing, which are serving their purpose better? So what is it differentiated, or are our products having better quality and that's why people is our brand better? So people are buying our product. So this is something which is, what is our competitive advantage? So they're all part of the competitive. Competitive advantage means that we are better than the competitors, and therefore
দিল্লি চ্যাপ্টারে একটাও ওই ভালো না ফ্যাসিলিটি নয়টা এত ভালো না
any question?
No question, sir. Some mics are unmuted. Please ask them to mute.
Kindly mute your mics, because and you unmute it only when you ask questions, so that will be fine, because it might disturb others. So it is important not only to know the purpose of the organization, also important for HR people to understand what is our competitive advantage. So whether we will be successful by producing the low price product, or we'll be successful, or we are going to be successful because of higher quality or better design, or our products are more technologically advanced, or we have a faster access to the market, innovative products, and so on. So they're all part of the competitive advantage. What are we really doing better compared to our rivals, and what we should do better than our rivals in order to become more and more successful. So this is something very important to understand. Okay, so company's business, company's purpose we should know, we should understand clearly, and company's competitive advantage. Third thing, which is important for us to know before we embark upon the formulating the HR strategy, is what the critical challenges of the company. What are the critical challenges? Means, what is it that keeps CEO awake at night? CEO is responsible for the entire business. What is it that keeps him awake? That is, what is it which doesn't, which is always on top of his mind and doesn't allow him to sleep? That is a critical challenge which a business is facing. And there are usually number of people, number of reasons for these things. They could be global competition. They could be another player coming from outside. In a number of times today in the globalization era, foreign players also come and give competition, and that might be keeping him busy, or some changing regulations. GST was introduced, and that kept number of CEOs awake at night because they did not know how to deal with the whole things. Or changing customer preferences. People nowadays prefer online purchases rather than the going to the physical shops and all that. Now, are we geared up for this kind of preference of these things that we keep? So, growing is source scarcity. Some of the items, inputs which we are buying, they are becoming scarce and scarce, and the prices are going up, and that might be keeping. Or sometimes disruptive technology which can really disrupt our business because that is able to meet the customer's requirement much better. Number of times this happens. Disruptive technology is something, or advancement in technology is something which is a pain in the neck of CEO, and he is concerned about it. So there are good number of critical challenges which each CEO is going to face it. So when we are moving towards the HR strategy, when we are trying to make the HR strategy, we start from the company strategy. That means we start on the company's business purpose. We start with the competitive advantage, with understanding the critical challenges which the company is facing. These are something inputs for our business strategy. Now, the question is, if we want to deliver on our purpose, and that's an aim for everybody in the organization, if we want to strengthen our competitive advantage, because that is what company makes it, that's what company is successful because of competitive advantage. And if we want to overcome the critical business challenges which each company faces in today's environment, then what is required on the people side? What is from the, as HR head, you must know what is it that on the HR side, people side, I should be able to do to help on all these three things. Okay, and that these are called we are calling them people related challenges. That means he has to identify that in order to do all these three things or meet all these three goals, what is it that I'm supposed to do on the people side? What are the people related challenges? Okay, so this is the second thing. First thing which we have to understand, that what are people related challenges that I'm going to address. Okay, so this is the second step which happens. People related challenges could be many. Let's understand what are the people related challenges. Now, supposing in our business we are not able to fill key positions. We are not able to get a good let's say marketing head, or we are not able to fill some expert positions in our R&D, or we are not able to have a production in some particular area. We are not having the experts available. So this could be a challenge. These are important challenges. Okay, and or let's say we are not having enough people with the relevant skills required for our business operations. Okay, there could be that we are not able to retain our people, particularly our attrition rate is high. Our good people are leaving. They get so if that is the case, we must retain our best and high potential employees, but we are not able to retain them. That could be other people, or people are not really motivated, committed, and they are engaged or committed to the people, committed to the job that they're doing, and their performance is below par. So they're effective, their productivity is low. Okay, that could be another problem. and we are, I mean, we are getting some complaints that the compensation is there. We keep on there. So there could be a large number of people-related challenges, and each organization has got large number of people-related challenges. We, out of all the challenges, we select key challenges. We select key, maybe 5, 7, 10, 8. We can prioritize in terms of criticality, and we look at them. So another thing which we need to know, and which is again very important, is there are certain critical functions for a company. Now, I'm showing that same slide again, which shows almost all the functions in the company. Now, can you tell me which are the key functions out of these?
Sir,
Anybody?
all are key functions.
Huh?
All are key functions, as a
All
company
are,
cannot function without
sorry?
anyone missing.
Yeah.
So
So
company can.
yeah.
So all functions are important, because a company cannot function without any one of them missing out of this.
Yeah. You're right. So all companies are important, because any function not being there will create a problem. And if a function is not important, then if you can do without it, you better do without it. If it is not at all required, then you can do without it, right? So all the functions are important, right? But out of these important functions, everything is important, and everything is required, because that's why they exist in the organization. If they're not required, then they won't. So, but out of these all these functions, there are certain key functions, and key functions. And you now, let's say you know about Apple. All functions are important, but for Apple, let's say, what do you think is the key function? Because Apple, they keep on coming with the innovative new products. Every year they come out with some innovative product. So
R&D,
huh?
R&D is important.
R&D.
R&D is important.
Absolutely right. So R&D is the key function. Key function. All are important. Again, I fully agree with your response. But the key function in Apple is R&D. Now, give me another. What is for Walmart? What is the key function? Is R&D a key function for Walmart?
So material management.
Absolutely right. Why do you say so?
Yeah.
Why do you say so?
So because Walmart is known for its diverse materials that they have, so to manage it all, they need a strong materials management.
Yeah, they need a strong materials man. They need strong purchasers, because they purchase things from various suppliers, and then at a lower price, and then they give it to you also, sell it to you for a lower price. So the main strength of Walmart is they have excellent purchasers who can negotiate when they buy the stuff. They can negotiate at such a rock bottom price that then they are able to give to all the customers of Walmart at a lower price. So for Walmart, materials management is a key function. Let's say, let's understand from a pharma company. Merck is a pharmaceutical company.
It's
What is the
research and development.
Huh?
Research and development.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Because if we can come out with one formulation of any disease, for example, if they can come out with the cancer, this thing, then that will be that will really give them huge boost in the performance and results and profit and so on and so forth. So every organization has certain key functions. So if you want to really understand what the key functions, see, I'm showing you a graph. Here on the x-axis is performance, and in the y-axis is added value. Now, every individual in the organization adds certain value. That's the value. And if his performance improves, that means he's adding more value. Similarly, every function in the organization adds certain value. Okay, and if that function's performance improves, that means they are having this adding more value. So if you see, the graph goes like this, that if the performance improves of a function, it adds more value. Okay, now what in a key function, in the key function, if it performance improves, it adds huge value. You know that yellow line which is there. Yellow line is for the key function, because if in a pharma company, if R&D can come out with a few formulations which can really come out with the best-selling medicines, then that will be a huge value. Similarly, like for example, Apple we talked about. If innovators, or if R&D and innovators there are able to perform slightly better, the value addition is exponential. You know, it is not like, so the difference between the key function and other functions is this, that they add much more value. So let's try to understand one more aspect of this. I'm showing you a 2x2 matrix. On the x-axis, I have got strategic relevance. That means how that function is relevant for the business strategy. Okay. For example, in Apple, R&D is having a very high strategic relevance. In Walmart, material management is having a very high strategic relevance. In pharma company, R&D again is a very high. So if on the right hand side, all the functions, if I plot there, they are having high strategic relevance compared to the functions which appear on the left hand side. The vertical axis is talent availability. For that particular function, whatever function we're talking about, is talent available in the market or not? If the talent is available in plenty, then that is a lower end of the y-axis. High is at the lower point. And if the talent is scarce, hardly any people are available in the market, then it is on the higher end of the y-axis. So that means the higher half is those functions which are having low availability of people, human resource, and bottom half is the one where people are available in plenty. Now look at this point. And third dimension also let me bring, which is I'm going to show the functions as a circle, and if the circle is big, that means the demand of that function is very high. If the circle is small, that means demand is very low. In other words, let's say if a company has requiring lots and lots of assistants, clerks or something, then I'll make a big circle. If a company needs only 1 or 2 lawyers in the company, so I'll put a small one. So if you see this circle, which is on the left hand bottom corner and pretty big, that means these are the people. This is the function where the people are available in plenty and demand is quite high, and they are not having a very strong strategic relevance. So this is that kind of a circle. There could be another circle on the other extreme where strategic relevance is very high, but availability also is very poor. So you see, this could be some people. Let's say again, let me talk about a very specialized uh, person or expert in a particular field, maybe a cancer field, or let's say for a medical, or let's say a very expert in certain deep system software area which a company needs and all that. Maybe they need only 1 or 2 people, but then very highly specialized and the availability is low. So that, and now you could have other circle, which is plenty of people are required and it is not in strategic relevance. However, they're not available in the market. What do you do? So this is another these things. That means you need a lot of people and they are not available in the market. So you have to get them. So HR strategy will have to address this kind of issue. So these kind of people are called bottleneck functions. Bottleneck functions means the people are required in plenty, but their availability in the market is low. So they are called bottleneck functions. There could be another one, for example, which is again a function which is not of very strategic relevance for the business. However, you require also 1 or 2 people, but they're not available. Something like, if I can say, a corporate law. Each company, big company, needs some corporate lawyers, okay, and they have a specific need, but they are required 1 or 2, and they are not so easily available. Okay, so they are at this left hand upper corner. So that way you plot all the functions in the based on their strategic relevance and also how available the talent is for that particular thing. Now the key functions are all those functions which appear on the right hand side of this 2x2 matrix. All these functions which I'm showing here, key functions, high strategic relevance. They could be 1 or 2 people, they could be more people, or they could be less. But then, and sometimes key functions people are not available. That is a top circle, small circle. Sometimes they're key functions, but they are available in the market. So these are key functions. And bottleneck functions are those which are big demand, but it is hard to fill because availability is low. So these are the bottleneck function. Now, your HR strategy is going to be different when you want to recruit people. If you want to recruit people for this one, let's say this circle, there are plenty of them available. So you have one advertisement and you'll get huge number of applications, and you are able to do a very good job. You are able to recruit people. But now, if people are not available and your organization needs this thing, I mean, I have faced this problem in my own experience in HR. I was with NTPC, and when NTPC was growing, it required hundreds and hundreds of power engineers. And power engineers are not available in the market. If you want to say, okay, just go and advertise power engineer, means the person who can run the power stations and all that, they're not available. So how do I manage to run my power stations when people are not available? So that is the strategy which we have to really work out, decide that how do we get these people. So the idea in that, when you're developing an HR strategy, you have to have a very good understanding of critical challenges of business. But in the HR area, you have to be very clear about key functions, because key functions deserve a very high attention from your side. I mean, just to give you example, if you have 100 people, let's say, if you have 1 lakh rupees for training your people, 1 lakh rupees, just for example, and you have all the functions in the department. Where will you spend that money, 1 lakh, to the best value for the company? You will train people in the key functions, because if the performance of key functions improves, your company gains a lot. So that's where the HR will have to differentiate between various functions with respect to certain activities, with certain this thing. And I have seen this, and it happens in every organization. The key functions, people are, HR motivates them much more, because they know that if the performance improves, that they will be able to deliver much better results. So a key function is a function which the future competitiveness really depends on that. That is the most important point. The key functions and high performance in the functions makes a significant difference in the success. If they can do something better, it really makes a difference. So you need to hire not just good people for those key functions. You need to hire the best people for this function. For other functions, you may hire good people. That is okay. But then when it comes to the key functions, you need to hire the best people for the key functions. And of course, when you hire best people, I think what is important is that hiring or cost and all that does not matter much, because you are acquiring somebody who is going to make a lot of difference in the success. So even developmental cost and all that, they don't matter. People will anytime spend money for developing such people. Retention, you have to retain those people. So whatever you have to do for it. So always you'll find the key function is always on the radar of CEO. He keeps his focus on this key function. While bottleneck functions are those functions where the demand is high volume and they're difficult to acquire because they are not available in the market. And there are very few people who are searching for this thing. Of course, a function can be both bottleneck and key functions, and that will be a constant worry of HR strategy. So this is how at least you must be able to distinguish between certain functions, and therefore when you do your HR strategy, these critical functions, that means key functions and bottleneck functions, should be under consideration. So how do we proceed now? Company strategy we have seen. We also looked at the people-related challenges, and then also looked at the critical functions. And now, for those people-related challenges and for critical functions, what are the strategic HR topics and approaches? What is it that we are going to do? What are the solutions? And what are the HR topics and approaches? They come from the various functions which we talked about. So out of these only, there are certain things which may be our focus. We have to pick those things for addressing those people-related challenges. For people-related challenges, what are the functions which we need to address? Now, let's say if our so let's move on. That means we look at, out of all the functions, we identify those functions which are now under our focus for meeting those challenges. And the next point which is important is that those challenges I cannot just implement it. I have to look at what is the structural and cultural context. Okay, because all those approaches will not work in all organizations. I mean, the approach has to be differentiated with respect to the structural and cultural context. As I mentioned to you, that same as our HR strategy in two organizations in the same industry may not work very easily, may have different impacts. Because what is a structural and cultural context? That is our culture authoritative or participative? Are we more autocratic in our leadership is autocratic and we are supposed to give decisions, and or is it that we have a participative culture? Are we having theory X people, McGregor's theory X or Y? As you know, theory X is something that people don't want to work. If you want to make people work, you have to use danda. You have to either penalize them for low performance or kick them or something or whatever. And the theory Y says that people are interested in working. They want to give their best. So are you, as your company, are you McGregor's theory X practitioner or Y practitioner? Is your hierarchy flat or tall? So these are the various ideologies which we are there. So whenever you develop a based on your people-related challenges and critical functions, when you identify a particular area to be worked on, and you will have to look at the strategic alignment. That means whether it is aligned to the structure and the cultural context or not. So you have to design that kind of a strategy which is in line with your culture. So maybe I think I'll give you a example to make it very clear. Supposing you're not getting people, right? People are not applying for your jobs advertisement. So you're not getting the right people. People don't apply. So this is primarily a recruitment area. This is about the recruitment. So people-related challenges is not getting the right people. Then you identify the recruitment is the area. And in the recruitment, supposing you say employer branding, that our employer branding is not good. People do not get attracted to our organization. And that's why they do not apply or we are not getting the people. So if employer branding is the issue, then there could be two approaches. How do we do employer branding? One approach could be that let's keep on issuing some advertisement about our companies plus points, and just to attract our people, we have loud advertisements. So if you want to be perceived as an attractive employer, we really display fireworks, make it visible, make it a full page advertisement in newspaper or whatever, or any magazines, or let's say we advertise loud and dominant. That's one approach. Second company, which is also doing the same thing, they go for quiet and personal. They say, okay, we will also improve our employer branding, but we will not go as per the first route. We will be more discreet and we will have personal communication. And we will urge people for good reasons that you should be interested in our. That is a other way of enhancing the employer branding. Now, which one would you follow? That depends on your own company's ideology, your culture.
Sorry, kindly dilate on the latter part. Kindly dilate on the latter part.
Latter part means the second. Okay.
Yeah, second part. Yeah, second part. Please.
One company believes in the blue one, the first one, believes in a very loud way of announcing, or let's say telling people, telling all the future applicants that this is what we are. We are a great company. We do this, we do this in a loud manner. While the second company is more quiet and personal. They don't do it as loud. They don't. They are wanting to do it that we will communicate our strengths and we will communicate about our employer brand that we are attractive employer by by discreet and personal
Can you please spell out some examples?
No, example could be that you, example could be that you do that in, let's say you go to various sources of recruit candidates and interact with the people in some seminar or in some gathering or some conferences or something where you tell
Do you think helps? CSR helps? CSR?
CSR helps, of course.
Hello?
CSR helps that
Yeah.
this company or you're concerned about the society. You are also, but CSR also helps, but CSR probably takes longer time to do it. Maybe your own personal communications
Okay, okay.
to do it.
Sir,
CSR
mostly for hiring of the strategic level people, the higher management, it is done on the quiet and personal basis, most of the time.
So that means the point here is that you can choose your approach for employer branding based on your cultural context. There could definitely be some organizations who prefer the one and some who will be prefer, and it depends on what one which you do. So ultimately, this is how the HR strategy. Again, let's revisit our initial definition. The company's HR strategy refers to people-related approaches. We explained that address both strategic challenges, purpose, and competitive advantage. And also the second part, which is very important, is that it is to be aligned to the structural and cultural context. That is important. That's why supposing suppose somebody asks you without telling you what the company is, and as a HR professional, they says, okay, since you are a HR professional, tell me what is the HR strategy I should follow in my company. Yeah, it doesn't tell you about what company it is. Now, what can you tell about HR strategy? You will say that, okay, HR strategy, the key areas are, let's say, planning, or let's say recruitment, selection, training, development, performance management. All these are the key functions. So please do this, and that is where, unless you know the company's business, company challenges, company's critical functions and all that, you will not be able to help in deciding about business HR strategy. Okay, so HR strategy is therefore, so that means supposing you get a question that develop a HR strategy for a business organization, you will be at loss. You will be at loss. Say, what do I say HR strategy when I don't know anything about the organization? But supposing the question is given like this, okay, give us the HR strategy of a component manufacturer in the electronic industry, electronic component manufacturer, which is is operating within a competitive environment. So if that is the kind of organization, so now you know certain things, and if you discuss with the CEO of that company, he probably will give you what are the challenges and all that. So once you know that it is a component manufacturing company means that it probably is going to have a cost leadership strategy. They would like to manufacture components as cheap as possible, and then they want to have a good quality. So you understand that cost leadership is there, but my component should be good, and so on. So that is where the competitive advantage will be there if I keep on manufacturing low cost, and I should keep on improving my components, this thing based on the advancements in the electronics technology. So that is other one which you know. So that's how you will be able to understand the business very well and business strategy also. Now you will be able to probably give him a much more specific HR strategy as to what you should be able to do it. So it is important for people to know the business. Otherwise, a key components of HR strategy are strategic human resource planning, recruitment selection, training and development, performance management, and compensation development. So all these are functions of this thing. But what is important is aligning HR strategy to business. Let me give you another example how you can align this your HR strategy to business strategy. Supposing your business strategy is cost leadership, which I was just explaining. And cost leadership means that you have to have economies of scale, because through economies of scale, that means you are producing large number of components or products. You will have to have low cost manufacturing. So you also, that means you don't need high value people in the organization. You want production people, medium class and all that. You're not going to go and recruit from Harvard, Wharton, IIMs and all that. You're going to recruit from mediocre engineering colleges. You want standard products, high volume. So these are the various characteristics of a cost leadership business strategy. Now, when you look at the HR strategy, you are number one going to have a detailed manpower planning. That means since you are very cost conscious, you want no surplus. You want people to operate at a high operational efficiency. So that is one aspect. You need inexpensive manpower, not very expensive, because low cost is your discipline, cost conscious culture. Everybody should be worried about how they can save cost. Frugal mindset, not buying things which are expensive. Be stingy, be conduce, I mean, so to say. And recognition for cost cutting measures. If somebody can cut the cost, you reward him. That means your incentive pay or something has to be on cost cutting measures. And performance metrics for the people will be cost, lower cost, and huge volume. How much you can produce in a day or in a year or something. These are the components of the HR strategy. The characteristics of HR strategy will be these ones. Now let's look at the low bordered compensation benefits. You're not going to have people and pay them very high salaries. Yeah, because it's a cost leadership. Walmart, for example, as I must have mentioned in some session there earlier, that Walmart, the salary of the people in Walmart is very moderate, very, very moderate. And they have very cost conscious culture. Okay. They do not have separate cabins for even for senior managers. They all sit in a hall and all that. So low and moderate cost and benefit, this thing is the. Now look at the other strategy, which is differentiation strategy. What is differentiation strategy? It's the product with unique features. The features which are appealing to the people, maybe a very good design, maybe a class of, so that means you spend a lot of money in making that, and that but customers prefer your product somehow, and because they feel that they feel good about it, so their utility is high. So customized products and services, right solution for each customer. This is the kind of a differentiation strategy. We talked a lot about the differentiation strategy in the previous sessions. Now, what should be the HR strategy for such a company? They need expert. They need very strong talent for. You definitely need people from the best institutes, because you want innovative people, scientists, and so on and so forth. Building customer relation management is important. Their performance metrics will probably cover customer loyalty. You recognize people based on their relationship with the customers. In your organization, knowledge sharing helps in this thing, and you come out with different solutions. So knowledge management is going. So all these are the characteristics of HR strategy, which is used for a company which is using differentiation as a business strategy. Okay, so my towards the end now, I would also like to guard you against certain pitfalls. Based on my experience of almost 30 years in HR area, I have noticed that there are a number of pitfalls where even the senior people are not spared, and some pitfalls. So it is important for us to understand those pitfalls. Number one pitfall is copying from others. Very common kind of a pitfall. Let's say you go for a conference on performance management in Delhi, which is organized by some AIMA or whatever, and then there somebody comes and talks about performance management in his company, and you like the total presentation very well, and you like the way they have achieved their objectives. And now you come to your office and you say, okay, let us adopt that strategy, PF performance management system, in our company, because that worked there very well, so it will work here again. Now, this is something which may not work. Number of times people do copy from other organizations because they have seen success in those organizations, and they feel that they can also repeat the success in our own organization and copy it. But it doesn't work. And you know the reason why it doesn't work? Because their culture and your culture are different. Their structure and your structure is different. Their ideology and your ideology is different. So it will not work. It may not work. In fact, number of times this happens. That is the first pitfall. Never copy it. Some people give it a name, benchmarking. But fine, you can copy it as long as you mold this, redesign that solution suiting to your culture and structure and all that. Second pitfall is inside out thinking. Inside out thinking means something which HR people have thought about, okay, and some initiative, let's say HR group, they will say, yeah, let's do employee survey, because employee survey is something very good, and I think we will come to know about this. So they do that. So it is inside out thinking, means you decide what is to be done without involving the people who are likely to be beneficiary. And if you do that, you may not come out with the right solution, or it may not really work. So all your initiatives must be discussed, or people, those who are beneficiary of your initiative, they must be involved in designing and thinking. Then only you'll be able to do a good thing. Third is lacking focus. And by lacking focus means that as you see, each organization has got too many people related things. And I've seen in various organizations, particularly big organizations, HR people, they start doing number of things, number of HR initiatives they start doing in the company. Now, what happens when you do like this? People who are going to be for whom you are doing that, the line functionaries, their main job is their jobs. I mean, they like production guy, when he starts in the office in the morning, he is more concerned about his production activity. Now, he doesn't wake up with the HR issues every day and say, okay, and now you are already you are giving them number of HR things, performance appraisal bhi karna hai, employee survey karna hai, and so on and so forth, and number of activities which you do. And what happens is, if everything is critical, all the initiatives of yours are critical, that means nothing is critical. You got to prioritize. You have to have a few things on which you focus, and a few things only which other people can also focus, not complicatedness. A number of times we have a tendency to make our solutions highly complicated. For example, we may be able to do something in a performance management system, assessment center, and job evaluation, and development center, and then things like a number of things which then they start getting linked, and all that becomes very complicated for other people to understand than this thing. So, and last is focusing on solution. So you focusing solution means you first start with the solution. Again, coming back to the solution is that you want to do employee survey, and then you decide about what kind of questions you're going to ask and all that, and then you implement it. And normally what happens is it runs into bad this thing. People are not very clear as to why we are doing this and all that. So ultimately the problem is, and then you make your change management program and all that. You try to convince people and all that. Ultimately, somebody can, at the end of this thing, somebody asks, why are you doing this employee survey? And you are at loss in answering that question. So what I'm trying to say is, start with the problem. What is the problem? What is the context? And then solution, and then design the initiative. So normally this is another one which are pitfalls which sometimes HR strategists they are trying to follow. So this is what I wanted to cover in this HR strategy. So summarizing this, HR strategy means that we understand our business, the purpose, the competitive advantage, the business related challenges. Based on that, we also work out the people related challenges, and then identify what topic, what solution which we are going to offer, and then design the strategy based on your company's cultural and structural context. Then only it will be relevant. Any questions on whatever we have discussed? I'm ready to answer that question. Yeah.
So this is fine. Could you please suggest some books on HRM, like which we can refer?
HRM. There's a book by Armin Trust. I'll probably give you is this Armin Trust. He is the person who has done extensive work on HRM and HRD and business HR strategy and all that. And his book is very good. I will do one more thing, probably in the next session, or maybe let me see if I have his. He is also. If I have that. Yeah. Can you see this slide? Here I'm giving you a YouTube talk by Armin Trost as how to build powerful HR strategy. So if you can note down, this is the
yes, I have done it. Yeah.
This is the link, and if you on YouTube, if you go to this, Armin Trost is a very good author. He has written books, and you will find his YouTube episodes. And in this particular episode, he tells you how to build a powerful HR strategy. And if you go to other episodes of Armin Trost, you will find number of interesting things about HR, because he's a HR practitioner. When he worked, but now he's a professor of HR in a German company. but extremely good. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Any other question before we?
You said Armin Trust, no? ARMIN.
ARMIN, Armin Trust.
TRUST.
No. TROST.
TROST.
It's
And
on the screen. It's on the screen. Yeah.
I'm not able to see the screen anyway. So, and what is the name of the book you said? Sorry.
HR Strategies. I think the name of the book is HR Strategies.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Strategy or something. But the author name is much more important. Armin
Yeah. Trust.
Trust.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Sir?
Yes.
Yes. Sir, could we in the next lecture come up with a few examples for key functions and bottleneck functions? I mean, the live examples or something like, I mean, some examples that you could give us?
I gave you some. Let me just repeat it.
No, I was there, sir, in the lecture, but I mean, apart from what we already have, I mean, to get a clearer idea.
Okay. I'll come with more because
because it was a little difficult for me to understand the bottleneck functions. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. What are you saying?
Yes, key function was okay. I mean, I understood a lot about it, but bottleneck functions, it is difficult. I mean, for me to relate as of now. I mean, I don't know if you can come up with an example.
Let me just tell you right now. Let's say, supposing we have a huge hospital, okay, and we need large number of nurses. Now, nurses are not so easily available, at least in some foreign countries. Nurses may be available in India, all right, but let's say in European countries, nurses are not so easily available. But you need nurses. You need good number of nurses for a big hospital. So this becomes a key function, a bottleneck function. That means you need them. They are required, and they are required in big numbers. Every year you need more and more, but then they are not available. So that's a bottleneck function. It is not a key function. Key function for a hospital may be doctors or something, the doctors, specialists. But nurses are the bottleneck functions in those places where availability is very poor. So that the bottleneck functions definition is more demand is high, but availability is poor.
All right. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So you happen to mention that if we have to train our people train people, so we should focus more on the manpower in the key function.
I said, training may be required in all the functions. But if you have, I mean, as I gave you example, if you have only 10 lakh budget, now if you 10 lakh, if you spread across all functions equally, that is one. However, I think you must be able to prioritize which function where you are going to spend more money. And more money means that means, and then I think key functions deserve much more, because any improvement in the performance by spending money on training will give you a much higher return. Okay, so that is where, in fact, similarly, the key functionaries, the people in the key functions, they command higher salaries. They command higher salaries. I mean, I'm not talking about the public sector undertakings, because public sector, every function, salary depends on the grade which you are in. However, in the private sector, you will find that people in the R&D center and those critical key functions where the R&D is a key function, there they get very high salaries. They get good salaries, because it is important to retain those people. It is important to motivate these people. It's important to really make life comfortable for them in order to them to deliver good results. So yeah, this kind of differentiation is there, and HR should really recognize and appreciate this fact. If you want to go in a socialistic way that everybody will be treated at par, then the difference between key function and other functions disappears. Then all functions are this thing, and you will not be probably doing this. So all professional organizations, they have much due care for the key function. Even CEO will, wherever marketing is important, let's say you are worried about your brand or your success. If the marketing is important, you know that marketing people command the respect of CEO. They do, and I think they command higher salary. Imagine the airlines, pilots. Pilots is a key function. Huh? And
Yeah.
you know the salary pilots get, because they are very high compared to all other staff. They are much higher, and they are pampered a lot. They are maybe, and pampered not just for a pampering sake, it is for good business reasons, because they are key functions. You know, it's a
So
fact.
I'm just trying to understand more since I'm not from the HR function,
Ah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah.
as an HR manager, like that means that I would be putting more of the talented employees in the key function.
Yes, if you want to recruit people, please go and get the best people for key functions, because you want to have the huge performance operation in your key functions. So I mean, people will be recruiting from the best institutes, best this thing. You pay them best. You don't worry about hiring costs. You don't worry about the training costs, because key functions that way has to be pampered.
Right.
So that
Thank you so much, sir.
you're saying
It
is that,
helps in my assignment question also.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, good.
So just one more thing. I mean,
Yeah.
last time I did talk with Mr. Kumar that the PPTs that you have. I mean, we do have these lectures available on YouTube, but we would appreciate if we could share all the PPTs in the Google Classroom.
Uh, Actually, I will talk to Mr. Kaushal,
Yes.
and I can share it with him, and I think he can in turn share it with the Google, because I do not have access to that Google Classroom. So
All right.
I'll request Kaushal to share it with you.
All
Okay.
right. I mean, all the four lectures that we have had since
Okay.
now.
All
Because sir,
the
it is really, I mean, when we can look back to the YouTube lectures, but
okay.
if we want to, just understand one concept, then we have to go through the whole video, or you have to recall where it is. If it is a PPT which is shared with us, it becomes very easy to recall it, or I mean, to relate it with when we get a case study or some example kind of. To understand.
I will send to Kaushal, and I think he will take it ultimately about sharing it on the Google.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Any other question, please?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Happy Diwali, sir.
Happy
Happy
Diwali.
Diwali.
Yes, with